Gideon V. Wainwright was a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case in which the court ruled that the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution requires providing attorneys to criminal defendants who are unable to afford their own. The case extended the right to counsel, which had been found under the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, to impose requirements on the federal government by imposing those requirements upon the states as well. Between midnight and 8 a.m., June 3rd of 1961, a burglary occurred at the Bay Harbor Pool Room in Panama City, Florida. A person broke the door, smashed a cigarette machine and a record player, and had also stolen money from a cash register.
Later that day, a witness reported that he had seen Clarence Earl Gideon in the pool room at around 5:30 that morning, leaving with a wine bottle, Coca-Cola, and change in his pocket. Based on this accusation alone, the police arrested Gideon and charged him with breaking and entering with the intent of committing petty larceny. Gideon appeared in court alone as he was too poor to afford a lawyer and failed to be provided with one.
As a result, he was forced to act as his own counsel and conduct his own defense in court, proving his innocence in the case. At the conclusion of the trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict. The court sentenced Gideon to serve 5 years in the state prison. Gideon first filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus in the Supreme Court of Florida.
In his petition, he claimed his Sixth Amendment right had been violated because the judge refused to appoint counsel. The Florida Supreme Court denied Gideon's petition. Later, from his cell at the Florida State Prison in Ralph Ford, making use of the prison library and writing in pencil on prison stationery, Gideon appealed to the United States Supreme Court in a suit against the Secretary of Florida Department of Corrections. The judge for his case was replaced by Louis L. Wainwright before the Supreme Court heard the case.
Gideon argued in his appeal that he had been denied counsel and therefore that his Sixth Amendment rights, as applied to the states by the 14th Amendment, had been violated. The Supreme Court's decision was announced on March 18, 1963. The decision was announced as being in favor of Gideon. Gideon overruled, holding that the assistance of counsel, if desired by a defendant who could not afford to hire counsel, was a fundamental right under the United States Constitution, binding on the states, and essential for a fair trial and due process of law regardless of the circumstances of the case.
No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
The Sixth Amendment guarantees the rights of criminal defendants, including the right to a public trial without unnecessary delay, the right to a lawyer, the right to an impartial jury, and the right to know who your accusers are and the nature of the charges and evidence against
The
you.
right to an attorney is a fundamental right. The Sixth Amendment also applies to the state through the 14th Amendment. By refusing to appoint Gideon a lawyer, Florida was violating the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Was
Florida violating the U.S. Constitution by refusing Clarence Gideon a lawyer and invalidating Amendments 6 and 14?